listening to LOA Recon with the Good Vibe coach Jeanette Ma, where we dissect the ins and outs and the art and science of conscious creation, all intended to amp up your manifesting game. Let's have some fun together. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I'm happy that I get to be part of your day today, and I hope that you feel the same way by the end of this episode, because I got a topic in mind that I sometimes can get a little fired up about, so I'll try and keep my attitude in check for the next couple minutes while we're talking about this. What's on my mind is that feeling better is a discipline. You know, we conscious creators understand that the heart of this manifesting game is finding a way to feel now how we would feel then, which basically just means find a way to feel better. And that usually comes down to either thinking a better feeling thought or shifting our focus in some way that allows us to feel better. And sometimes when I'm talking with people about this, they will argue with me that that I don't understand how hard it is for them, that it's easy for me because I'm already living my dream life. There's nothing in my world that would make that practice hard. But for them, it's hard to feel good because they've got bosses or spouses or health challenges or money problems. They'll list a wide variety of reasons why it's hard for them to think good thoughts, which I wouldn't understand because it's easy for me. Oh, look, first of all, I didn't say think good thoughts. I said think better feeling thoughts. And sometimes the thought that feels better is not necessarily one we would call quote unquote good. Sometimes it doesn't sound like love and light. And second, the ability to find better feeling thoughts isn't correlated to what's going on in our life. It has nothing to do with our living conditions. I'll just say, I know people who are living your dream come true life. I say your dream come true life because I know most people don't aspire to my dream come true life, living up in the mountains with a bunch of animals. I love it. But I know many others, their dream come true life looks something more like traveling the world with an amazing partner. They have a wonderful, loving, happy, healthy family with plenty of money to do it however they want to. I know people who are living that life who have trouble finding better feeling thoughts. Believe it or not, it doesn't have anything to do with what we're living. I also know people, you probably know them too, people who might look like they don't have much going on for them in life, but who are consistently finding something to enjoy or something to laugh about or the bright side of things. So we know that it isn't necessarily associated with what's going on in our life. I think it's important to remember that so we don't fall for the thought that it's easy for some and hard for others depending on where we're at in life. I know for a fact that one's circumstances are not the determining factor of whether they're going to find the better feeling thoughts or not. You know what I think the determining factor is? It's the practice. It's the willingness to choose it over and over again, knowing that how you feel is a result of what you think or what you're focusing on, and that is within your power to choose. And it's the discipline of choosing it again and again and again until it becomes a habit, and then it looks easy. Someone the other day was being a little bit dismissive of my alignment practice, saying something like, well, yeah, Jeanette, sure, it's easy for you because you've got this going for you, you've got that. But you know what? That's not why it's easy for me. It's easy for me because I practice it. And frankly, sometimes it's not that easy. But it would be way harder if I wasn't a regular at this routine. But I am regular at this routine. And that's why it's easy. Not because my life is set up in the way it is. Look, people are living contrast no matter what they've got going on. That's how the system is set up. It's not a failing. It's how life gets even better. It's a required part of the formula. But no matter where we're at, we're always going to run across something that we think could be better. So what I'm trying to say is that my life is good because I'm willing to practice it. It's not that I'm good at the practice because my life is good. I'm talking about the practice of finding better feeling thoughts. My life got better as I got better at the practice. I hope this is making sense and that I'm saying this right. And I also know we can all practice this no matter where we're at in life. I don't know if there's an exception to that. If there is, I don't really want to entertain that too long, because I think that it's more empowering when we understand that we are capable of this no matter what. And again, okay, I'm toning down my attitude. The practice isn't to think good thoughts. I'm not saying we should all be thinking of love and light 24/7. It's to practice the thought that feels better. And sometimes that thought is dark. I'm laughing because I got an example. I had one the other day. I was in a Facebook group for animal rescue people, and they had just adopted out a cat to a couple that wanted to return it, and they wanted their money back. They signed a contract. Most rescue groups have a contract that, you got to sign, including if you don't want the cat, you got to bring it back to us. But these guys were also asking for their money back. And the reason they were returning this cat was because they didn't like its personality, and they wanted to declaw a cat, and they didn't realize that the contract would prevent them from doing so. So they were returning the cat and they wanted their money back. And the person in the rescue group was asking, what would you do? That was her question. What would you do? And, I don't know how many of you are familiar with rescue groups, but most of them, and this might be a limiting belief on my part that I would do well to change, but many of them just aren't swimming in money. So facilitating a refund isn't the easiest thing to do. But on principle alone, can you hear my attitude? Principle alone, I would not give that couple their money back. And they were threatening legal action. To a rescue group because they wanted to declaw their cat. Okay, so you know what I answered? This was my better feeling thought. Again, the better feeling thought isn't always a good one. This is my story of that. So I replied, everyone else is replying, sensible stuff. And luckily, no one really listens to me. I'm not anyone special in rescue world. No one's going to pay too much attention to me. But what I posted was, you ask what I would do? Here's what I would do. First of all, I would share their name with every other rescue group in town so no one else ends up adopting to a couple who wants to declaw a cat. And second, I would share their name with my favorite voodoo doctor. And then I said in parentheses, I have one if you don't. So see the laughter, that's a sign you're onto a better feeling thought. And it was it was a serious subject that was kind of heavy for everyone. And my comment, it did bring some laughter. And I'm still laughing about it, and it's days later. So I'm just pointing out that sometimes the thought that feels better is one that doesn't sound very good. If you're laughing, you're on the right track. And you know why it feels better? Because think of the powerlessness of the original thought of, we're going to get sued. How wrong everything around that felt. To anything that moves us out of powerlessness and into empowerment, even if it feels like revenge or something dark, that feels better. Remember, those of you who've been listening to my podcast a while, I did an episode a long time ago, where I told the story about my crackhead neighbor. Remember how much trouble I was having with him? It took a while before I realized I'd been in battle energy. The whole neighborhood was up in arms against him. And once I realized, oh my gosh, nothing good can come from this battle, I started switching the energy. Anyway, it was back then. And one of the conversations I had this was my neighbor on the other side, Shannon. And we were chatting at the fence one day, and of course talking about him, because that's mainly what the neighbors were always talking about. He was a really, really, really challenging influence in the neighborhood, and that is to put it mildly. I'm not going to reiterate how everyone arrived at that conclusion, but she was chatting at the fence about it, and she said something that, look, can you hear me smiling already? I'm just even thinking about it, and it's making me laugh again. This is another example of how the better feeling thought isn't always a nice one. She said to me, Jeanette, I know how stereotypical this is going to sound. She's Mexican, by the way. She said, I know how stereotypical this is going to sound, but what if we slashed his tires? She was saying that because he drove a vehicle that was so ridiculously loud. It had to be illegal. I have no idea how the police hadn't confiscated it. It was some sort of scooter or something. I don't know how anything could be that loud, but it was ridiculous. When I was on client sessions, I'd have to mute for a minute because you could hear it. I could tell a part of town he was going to. That's how loud it was. Anyway, she was talking about that, and she said, what if we slashed his tires? Oh my gosh. We burst out laughing, and to make that magical step from being victims, from feeling powerless around it, and if we weren't really going to do it, just entertaining the thought of it was relief. Oh. So again, sometimes the thought that feels better isn't always a good one. I'm not saying everyone should be thinking good thoughts. I'm just saying feeling better feeling thoughts. That's where the action is. And really the whole point of this episode is to reiterate that feeling good is a discipline. It's not a state of circumstances that you have to attain in order to feel good. It starts right here, right now, where we already are. And if we can't do that, if we can't find a way if we can't find that better feeling thought, no matter what our situation is, then we've got a serious manifesting handicap in place. And we're too smart to play it that way. Everyone can think a different thought. And you think a couple different ones, you're going to find one that feels better. And this is highly, highly personal work. In fact, the thought that feels funny to me could be horrifying to someone else. So it's super individual. And you've got to give yourself some good territory, some good playground to experiment with until you find a thought that feels better. You can do that. We're not waiting until life gets better, and we're certainly not going to entertain the thought that this is hard for me because I got all this crappy stuff going on. That thought doesn't feel better. That thought is disempowering, and it's not even remotely true. So if it seems like better feeling thoughts are hard to find, I'm just going to say you're not looking in the right place. You might need to look for the ones that you would never post on Facebook. Don't just think of the ones that are all bright and pretty. This is a skill worth developing. And for those of you who are already really good at it, it's worth celebrating that. You might be taken for granted that you're good at finding better feeling thoughts, but I'm telling you, not everyone does it as well as you do. So kudos to you for making it look easy. In fact, speaking of better feeling thoughts, I had one show up in my inbox from Carrie Hansen, who wrote a review for this podcast. It goes like this: Fantabulous! Thank you for being you. I have upgraded my LOA game significantly due to your sharing and encouragement. I could listen to you all day, every day. Oh, I gotta say, that's a better feeling thought for me. Thank you for the review, Carrie, and thanks to everyone who's listening. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.